The crystal glass hits the marble floor and shatters. The sound is sharp, final. Elena Morales freezes mid-step, her hand still wrapped around the cleaning cloth. Tiny shards scatter across the penthouse kitchen like fallen stars. Her heart slams against her ribs. "I'm so sorry," she says immediately. Her accent thickens when she's scared. "I'll clean it right now." Victor Langford doesn't look at the glass. He looks at her son. Matteo sits on the high stool by the island. Headphones slightly crooked. Pencil paused above his math notebook. 12 years old. Doqui. Observant. His dark eyes lift slowly, instinctively scanning the room, measuring danger. Victor exhales through his nose, annoyed. "Do you know how much that glass costs?" Victor asks, calmly, adjusting the cuff of his designer shirt. Elena swallows. "No, sir." "Of course you don't." He finally looks at her now, cold, evaluating. "Because people like you don't." The words land harder than the glass ever could. "Hey, beautiful souls, quick pause. Where are you watching from today? Drop your city in the comments. New York. London. Lagos. Let's see how far this story travels." Elena kneels, instantly, ignoring the sting as a shard slices her palm. Blood beads, bright red against white marble. "Mom," Matteo whispers, starting to stand. "Sit," Victor snaps without raising his voice. The room obeys him. Always does. High above Manhattan. Inside this glass-walled penthouse overlooking the Hudson, power isn't loud. It's quiet. It's confident. It's cruel when it wants to be. Victor Langford thrives in this silence. A self-made millionaire investor. Or at least, that's the story he tells. Sharp suits. Sharper opinions. To Victor, success is proof of intelligence. Failure is proof of laziness. And merci. Mercy is for people who can afford to lose. Elena finishes sweeping the glass. Her hand wrapped in a paper towel now soaked pink. She keeps her eyes down. Always down. For 3 years, she's cleaned this penthouse every morning before sunrise. 3 years of being invisible, efficient, replaceable. She never complains, because she can't. Matteo needs her. Victor's phone buzzes on the counter. He glances at it, irritation melting into anticipation. "Meeting starts in 10 minutes, he says. "You're still here?" "Yes, sir." Elena replies quickly. "I'll be done before." "Good." He cuts her off. "Because today's meeting involves people who actually matter." Matteo's jaw tightens. Victor doesn't notice. Or maybe he does, and simply doesn't care. The France Internationale partenaire arrive. Expensive shoes. Confident laughter. The smell of money and cologne fills the air. They greet Victor in English first, polite, professional. Then, casually, they switch. French. Mandarin. Words flow easily now, freely, unfiltered. Victor smirks, assuming the room is linguistically safe. Elena understands none of it, but Matteo does. At first, he tries to ignore it. He lowers his head. Focuses on numbers, fractions, on not drawing attention to himself. But then he hears it. A phrase in French, then another. His pencil stops, moving. His fingers tighten. One of the men laughs. A sharp, ugly sound. In Mandarin, he says something that makes Mateo's stomach drop. Something about moving assets overseas. Something about legal exposure. Something about letting Victor take the fall. Mateo's heartbeat roars in his ears. He looks at his mother. She's wiping down the far counter, completely unaware that the room has just turned dangerous. Victor laughs along with them, nodding, completely oblivious. "Smart move," Victor says in English, not realizing he's the punchline. Mateo feels something hot rise in his chest. Fear, anger, and something else. Responsibility, because his father once told him before he died. Languages are doors. Mio. One day, they'll open something that saves you. Mateo slides off the stool, the scrape of the chair against. Marble cuts through the room. Victor turns sharply. "What are you doing?" Mateo hesitates. Every instinct tells him to sit back down, to disappear, to stay invisible like his mother Haslan to do. But then he hears another sentence in Mandarin. And this one is worse, not much worse. He steps forward. "Sir," Mateo says softly. Victor frowns. "I wasn't talking to you." "I know," Mateo replies. His voice shakes, just a little. "But they were." The room stills. One of the investors chuckles. "What did he say?" he asks Victor in English. "Does the boy think he understands us?" Victor smirks. "Ignore him." Mateo swallows. "They said," Mateo continues, louder now, "that once the deal is signed, they'll shift the operation to Singapore and leave you responsible for the regulatory violations." Silence slams into the penthouse. Victor's smile doesn't fade. It cracks. "What?" Victor says slowly. Mateo takes a breath. Then he repeats Asian wordji for wordji. First in perfect French, then in fluent Mandarin. Then again, calmly, in English. 3 languages. One truth. The investors go pale. Victor's confidence drains from his face as reality sinks in. The maid, the child, the people he never saw, had just saved his empire. But this story isn't about gratitude. Not yet. Because Victor Langford doesn't thank people like Elena Morales. He punishes them. And what he chooses to do next will push Elena and Mateo to their absolute lowest point, and trigger a chain of events no one in that room sees coming. But stay with me, because what looks like the end is only the beginning. Victor Langford doesn't thank the boy. He doesn't apologize to the woman bleeding quietly by his counter. Instead, he does what men like him always do when their authority is challenged. He tightens his jaw, and he takes control. "That will be all," Victor says sharply. Eyes locked on Elena. "You and your son, leave." Elena blinks. "Sir?" "How?" The investors exchange uneasy glances. They don't intervene. They never do when consequences fall on someone weaker. Mateo opens his mouth, but Elena grips his wrist. "No," she whispers. "We go." They ride the elevator down in silence. Each floor feels heavier than the last. When the doors open to the street, Manhattan is loud, alive, indifferent. Elena exhales like she's been holding her breath for years. She's fired. Just like that. No severance. No explanation. No mercy. Mateo finally speaks. "I'm sorry, Mama." She stops walking, turns to him, and pulls him into her chest so tightly he can barely breathe. "No," she says fiercely. "You did nothing wrong." But fear creeps in any way. Rent is due. School fees are overdue. And Victor Langford is the kind of man who doesn't forget embarrassment. Hey, beautiful souls, where are you watching from right now? Drop your country in the comments. This part matters. That night, Elena can't sleep. Matteo sits at the small kitchen table in their cramped apartment, headphones on from work, but he keeps replaying the words, the laughter, the look on Victor's face when control slipped through his fingers. A knock comes at the door. Sharp, deliberate. Elena freezes. She opens it slowly. A woman stands there. Mid for cheese. Kais. Sharp posture. Not dressed rich, dressed capable. Mrs. Morales? The woman asks. Yes. My name is Grace Whitman, she says. I'm a corporate compliance attorney. Matteo's head snaps up. Grace steps inside and lowers her voice. I used to work for Victor Langford. Silence stretches. Grace places a slim folder on the table. And I think your son just saved more than a company today. Inside the folder are documents, emails, transfer plans, shell accounts, names circled in red. Grace taps the page. Victor's partners have been bleeding his company for months. Offshore accounts. Regulatory violations. The kind that sends people to prison. Eleanor's hands tremble. Why are you showing us this? Grace meets Matteo's eyes. Because Victor fired the wrong people. She leans forward. And because your son didn't just overhear a conversation, he confirmed something I've been trying to prove for over a year. Matteo swallows. I just understood them. Grace smiles slightly. No, Matteo, you understood intent. She turns to Elena. Your late husband, Grace says carefully, was he named Rafael Morales? Elena Stephen. Yes. How do you know that? Grace opens the folder again, this time revealing an old photograph. Rafael Morales. Younger, standing beside a man Elena recognizes instantly. Victor Langford. Rafael wasn't just a construction worker, Grace says. He was a financial translator, a language specialist. He helped international firms navigate cross-border contracts. Matteo's chest tightens. Grace continues. Before he died, Rafael flagged irregularities in Victor's early deals. He was paid to stay quiet. Elena feels the room spin. Grace slides over a flash drive. He didn't. Matteo's hands shake as he picks it up. He recorded everything, Grace says. Encrypted it. And taught his son languages so one day, if something went wrong, he could understand. Matteo whispers. Yes. Hopping nights. Not loud, but dangerous. Grace exhales. Victor doesn't know this evidence exists. Yet. But he will, Elena says quietly. Grace nods. Which is why we don't react. We plan. If this story is hitting you the way I think it is, you're going to want to subscribe. Because what happens next will absolutely blow your mind. Over the next few days, pieces move quietly. Grace leaks nothing. Victor believes he's won. He spreads the narrative fast. The Maid'S kid made things up. A misunderstanding. She was dismissed for unprofessional behavior. Eleanor's name is dragged through private circles. But behind the scenes, the trap is forming. Matteo listens, translates, cross-references. Grace builds timelines. Elena watches her son step into something bigger than fear. And Victor? Victor grows comfortable again. Confident. Overconfident. He schedules a final meeting. Same penthouse. Same partners. Same languages. He plans to lock the deal. Clean. Permanent. What he doesn't know is that the boy he dismissed is about to become the voice that destroys him. But just as everything seems perfectly aligned, a message arrives on Eleanor's phone. Unknown number. One sentence. I know what your son has. Eleanor's breath catches. Because now, the game just turned deadly. But wait, there's more. Let's go. This is where the tables turn and the trap snaps shut. Victor Langford stands at the center of his penthouse. Like a general surveying a battlefield, he believes he's already won. The Hudson glitters behind him. The city hums below. And around his marble table sit the same men who tried to ruin him. They smile too easily. Victor smiles back. Overconfidence is a dangerous thing. Elena Morales enters quietly through the service door. Matteo walks beside her. Up. Eyes alert. No headphones this time. Victor's gaze flicks to them, irritation flashing across his face. You have some nerve, Victor says. I told you not to come back. Grace. Whitman steps in behind them. That's because you don't get to decide who speaks anymore, she says calmly. The investors stiffen. One of them mutters in French, low and fast. Why is the lawyer here? Matteo hears it. Doesn't react. Victor straightens his tie. This meeting is private. Fais des agents en route. We were told to hold them here. Victor stumbles back a step. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. Matteo's heart pounds. This is moving too fast. The doors slam shut. Phones buzz. Sirens echo faintly in the distance. Then Victor smiles again. Cold. Calculating. If I'm going down, he says softly, I'm not going alone. He reaches into his jacket. Grace shouts, Victor, don't. The lights go out. Total darkness. A scream cuts through the room. And in that chaos, Matteo realizes something terrifying. The trap worked, but the price might be everything. Stay me. All right. This is the darkest hour where hope almost dies, and the audience genuinely fears the worst. Darkness swallows the penthouse. Not cinematic darkness. Hey-ow, darkness. The kind that makes your chest tighten and your thoughts race. Someone crashes into a chair. Glass shatters again. Voices collide in panic, switching languages mid-sentence. Elena. Matteo shouts, I'm here. Her voice is close to the chaos. A sharp pain explodes in Matteo's shoulder as someone shoves past him. Then, the lights snap back on. Security is gone. The investors are gone. Victor Langford stands alone near the window, smiling. Federal sirens fade in the distance. Not closer. Farther away. Grace stares around the room. This isn't right, she whispers. They were supposed to be here. Victor claps slowly. I told you, he says. If I'm going down, I'm not going alone. Two men step out from the hallway. Not building security. Private. Eleanor's stomach drops. Victor points at Matteo. Take the boy. Matteo's blood turns to ice. Elena moves without thinking, stepping in front of her son. No, she says. Please. Victor tilts his head. You should have stayed invisible. They grab Matteo. Elena screams. Hey, beautiful souls, I need you to stay with me right now. Where are you watching from? Drop your city. This is the moment that tests everything. Grace lunges forward. One of the men shoves her back. Mateo fights, kicking, twisting, but he's 12, small. Victor watches, expression unreadable. You think truth makes you powerful? Victor says calmly. Power is control. They drag Mateo toward the service elevator. Elena collapses to her knees. This is it. She's failed. Her worst fear realized. The elevator doors close. Silence follows. A silence heavier than before. Grace's hands shake. Victor, you can't. Victor raises a finger. You underestimated me, he says. Just like I underestimated you. He turns to Elena. You want your son back? She looks up, eyes hollow. Yes. Then you give me everything. Grace whispers. Elena, don't. Victor slides, a document across the table. A confession. Admitting fabrication. Audio manipulation. Extortion. One signature. Mateo's life for their future. Elena grips the pen. This is the darkest hour. No clever plan. No secret advantage. Just a mother choosing between truth and her child. Her hand trembles. Her husband's voice echoes in her mind. Languages are doors. Another memory follows. Raphael, late at night, teaching Mateo words softly. Not for money. For protection. Elena looks at Victor, and something shifts. No, she says. Victor's eyes narrow. She stunges. My husband died believing truth mattered, she says. If I sign that, Mateo loses more than freedom. He loses who he is. Victor laughs sharply. Then you've chosen. He turns away. Grace squeezes Elena's hand, tears spilling. I'm so sorry. Then, a voice fills the room. Calm. Measured. Victor Langford. It says. Step away from the window. Victor freezes. The sound comes from the speakers. From everywhere. Screens flicker on. Security feeds. Elevator cams. Mateo stands inside the service elevator. Unhurt. Holding a phone. Behind him uniformed officers. Federal Real. Victor spins around. What how? Grace exhales, disbelief flooding her face. Mateo's voice continues. You forgot something, he says through the speakers. You taught me to listen. The elevator footage rewinds. Blackoci. The moment the men grabbed Mateo. Mateo speaking rapidly in Mandarin into his phone. A phrase Victor doesn't understand. But the agents do. Grace's eyes widen. Emergency wiretap protocol. She breathes. Raphael taught him. Mateo's father had built a backdoor. A linguistic distress code. One that triggers automatic recording and location ping. Federal sirens rise again. This time closer. Victor stumbles back. No, he whispers. The doors burst open. Agents flood the penthouse. Weapons raised that Victor is forced to his knees. Cuffed. Broken. Elena sobs as Mateo runs into her arms. They hold each other like they might disappear if they let go. The lead agent steps forward. Victor Langford, he says. You are under arrest for conspiracy, obstruction, kidnapping, and federal fraud. Victor looks up at Matteo. Hatred. Then fear. And finally, understanding. He underestimated the wrong people. But wait! This isn't over yet, because justice still has one final chapter. Eri Wiari. This is the payoff. De Justice. The healing. The full Vitor Langford's fall is dramatic. There are no last words. No final threats. Just the quiet click of handcuffs. The sound he once ruled with. News breaks before the sun rises. Billion-dollar fraud exposed. Investor arrested after son of housekeeper translates secret deal. The story spreads like wildfire. Comment sections explode. People argue, celebrate, cry. And for the first time in her life, Elena Morales is not invisible. She sits at her small kitchen table as reporters crowd the sidewalk below. Matteo eats cereal beside her, calm, grounded, still just a kid. Mom, he says, do you think Dad knew this would happen? Elena smiles through tears. I think he hoped you'd never need it. Grace Whitman keeps her promise. All evidence is submitted. Every recording authenticated. Every shell company traced. Victor's partners flip on each other within days. Sentences stack. Ears peel up. The empire collapses not with fire, but with truth. Hey, beautiful souls, where are you watching from right now? This is the final check-in. Drop your city and let's finish this journey together. At the sentencing hearing, Victor avoids Elena's eyes. Matteo sits beside her, suit slightly too big, posture steady. The judge reads the charges. The consequences. When it's over, Victor is led away. Not angry. Just empty and outside the courthouse, Elena finally exhales. It's over. But the story doesn't end there. Months pass. Elena no longer cleans penthouses. She runs a foundation. Flashy. Not loud. A scholarship fund for children of domestic workers and immigrants. Kids who grow up listening more than they're heard. It's called the Rafael Morales Language Initiative. Matteo helps design the curriculum. French, Mandarin. English, Spanish, doors. Grace becomes family, not by blood, by choice. She watches Matteo speak at the first fundraiser, voice clear, eyes confident. I used to think being quiet meant being weak, Matteo says to the room. But sometimes, quiet is where you learn the truth. The applause is thunderous. Elena stands in the back, hands clasped, heart full. One evening, she receives a letter from Victor. Unopened, it sits on the table. Matteo looks at it. You don't have to read it, he says. Elena nods. She drops it into the trash. Some voices no longer deserve translation. Life doesn't become perfect, but it becomes honest, stable, Safi. And one morning years later, Elena stands in a glass-walled office, not as help, as guest of honor. She looks out over the Hudson. Same river, different life. Matteo stands beside her, grown now, confident, still listening. The circle is complete. From silence to voice. From invisibility to legacy. From underestimated to undeniable. Thank you for taking this incredible journey with me, beautiful souls. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs hope. And let me know in the comments which moment stayed with you